Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another staging of this spatial webinar series. It's a pleasure to have you all with us as we continue on this journey. For those who are joining for the first time, the spatial webinar is a monthly activity we do where we introduce the region, Caribbean region, and the world to the latest development in geospatial technology. I will be your host, one of your hosts for today. My name is Rashawn Clark. I'm the Deputy CEO of Spatial Innovision. Also, you'll be hearing from Mr. Lionel Grant, GIS Solution Specialist. And then we'll have a Q&A session with Mr. Everett Johnson, Geomatics Product Specialist. Now, just to share, every month we speak about different items. And the Spatial Innovision is a company that is the first geospatial company in the Caribbean. And we carry a bunch of different products and solutions and services from various partners. Our key partner, Esri, recently had a user conference where they announced many different developments within the GIS technology, particularly on the ArcGIS platform. And one of the announcements was the site scan product. Now, what it is something that our experts will speak more to once I pass over. But I'd just like to say that Spatial Innovision is the company that carries drones as well as do drone services. And this now is an end-to-end drone solution from flight planning to managing, to sharing, to processing and so forth. So having said that, this is the outset. Welcome everyone if you're joining for the first time. If you're not, welcome back. And at this point, I'd like to pass to our GIS Solution Specialist, Mr. Lionel Grant.
Thanks, Rashawn. Thank you much. As mentioned, my name is Lionel Grant, and I am GIS Solution Specialist here at Spatial Innovision Limited in the Geospatial Business Unit. I want to say a big thank you again for joining us. Some of you here may have already been familiar with the ArcGIS platform, the kind of interconnected ecosystem that it is. And it's a very robust system with many functionalities. The ArcGIS is at the heart of the Esri Geospatial Cloud, providing you with capabilities that are very advantageous to your workflow. Some of these are mapping and location enablement, field operations that you will normally do with your collective ArcGIS Survey 123 and quick capture apps, for example. Spatial analytics and data science, imagery management and analytics, and we'll be zooming on this one in particular, speaking about the site scan for ArcGIS application. Real-time visualization, such as what you'll do in your ArcGIS Online, for example, to detect changes over time. And data management that you will do, for example, in your ArcGIS Pro, looking at different analytical tools. As we see here on screen, we're seeing the kind of ecosystem that we have set up in ArcGIS, where users, for example, those who are GIS professionals, can connect through desktop applications such as your ArcGIS Pro, and for your web application, your ArcGIS Online, or for those who really want to host this kind of activity on premise, you use ArcGIS Enterprise. We also cater to the non-GIS professional who just want to connect with ArcGIS but do not have any proficiency in the area. They can do that through various apps on their mobile devices. By no means is this list of capabilities exhaustive here. These are just some of the functionalities and capabilities of the ArcGIS system. So today we'll be focusing on imagery management in particular, and ArcGIS is a platform for imagery and sensing. It provides a very comprehensive platform for you to do process your imageries and your remote sensing functionalities. Our imagery offerings are in connection with the whole issue of the science of where. And this is by no means a tagline only, but that it allows users to connect to all things spatial. Users can share and integrate all aspects of GIS information. Maps and data certainly, as many of us are aware, but also analytical models, applications, and nearly all kinds of georeference data. The imagery, of course, is a very important component, whether you're using satellite, manned aircraft, or just recently, as we'll be talking about today, drones. Imagery is used extensively across varying industries, from whatever industry you're from, whether you're into petroleum industry for exploration, or normalized difference vegetation index if you're into natural resource management, just to name a few. ArcGIS provides three main things you need to work with and effectively use your data. The first of which is a system of record, or your imagery management, which we'll be talking about today in terms of the site scan manager. And secondly, a system of insight to analyze imagery. For example, your raster functionalities in ArcGIS Pro. And finally, a system of engagement and sharing your data insights. So really and truly what you want to do is share through, for example, ArcGIS Online. And as you can see the imagery on your screen, you can push things to the cloud and host them as feature layers, feature services. Of course, photogrammetry is used then to make these sources accurate in GIS. And on the analytics front, you can then set up a scale to extract features from imagery and do advanced analysis, such as, for example, change detection over time through deep learning tools. The platform can display imagery information needed by decision makers. So, for example, the decision makers, persons in management who are not really familiar with GIS, but of course the decision is left up to them. They'll be using applications such as story maps and the operations dashboard, which are easy to use applications, providing information that are readable through graphs and other analytical tools online. So, what then is SiteScan? Because that is what we're really here to talk about today with you, our viewers. It's a third-party application, I must say, from the ArcGIS system through our upstream partner's partner, 3D Robotics. It provides a complete end-to-end drone mapping workflow, including flight planning, which we'll talk about this flights planning application, fleet management, checking your imagery, your kinds of drone that you use to fly, to do the flights, and thirdly, image processing and analysis capabilities. Of course, we capture images and we want to create meaningful output with them. This is then advantageous for your ArcGIS system. If you already have one set up, your ArcGIS Online and or ArcGIS Enterprise can use these functionalities to create further products that you can use in ArcGIS Pro, ArcGIS Online. As well as the fact that you have varying functionalities in your ArcGIS Pro, such as your raster functionalities in dealing with your imagery, from where you can measure distances, for example, and create other outputs. You also have the opportunity of publishing your drone imagery as feature export to third-party applications. For example, as mentioned here, Autodesk BIM 360. What's a typical workflow for the site scan application? Well, first of all, you plan and capture with your drone and the site scan app. We'll talk about that further. And secondly, in the process is where you manage and analyze through the site scan manager. And then third and final, of course, you want to be able to share, disseminate, and collaborate your output. The complete drone data work here is where SiteScan was created to solve a problem in the market space. So it's a case where initially, perhaps you would have to get a flight planning software, then get an image processing software, and then you need a third software to share and disseminate. Well, what we have done with SiteScan is kind of created an interconnected, integrated space where you can just do everything in the process with one application. It was developed as a single data pipeline that allows you to draw a region you want on a map, simply. And the drone then goes out and maps the region. The photos are then uploaded to the cloud, and the data is then processed and available for use within your organization. You plan and capture with your drone, as I mentioned, and once your drone is able to collect geotag imageries, your XYZ coordinates, you then, it is compatible. You then process, manage, and analyze with SiteScan Manager. And of course, as I mentioned, you can disseminate and collaborate through ArcGIS Online, for example. What is unique about SiteScan is that it has an elastic architecture. And what I mean by an elastic architecture is that we have Amazon services set up in the cloud where your batch of images can be uploaded once you have collected them to servers, image servers in the Amazon services. This means that customers will not have to wait in queue for processing. It's not a case where you have to get a ticket to process your imagery. You can just process them, and if you have multiple flights, what you do them is you do them in parallel, all at the same time. Here's a simple tutorial that you can view to see other functionalities of the SiteScan application. I trust that you will get some takeaways from it. Please pardon us as the sound is not coming through right now. Give us about 5 seconds to kind of get the sound running.
While we continue to work on playing this video, we just want to reiterate the points given so far. So the beauty of SiteScan is that once upon a time, one would have to have 3 different applications or process the 3 different areas of the workflow, almost in silos, where you do your flight planning with one application, you do your management and analysis with another, and final sharing would be through another component. So SiteScan, the real power of it is that it allows for all 3 areas to be one seamless, undisrupted workflow. And we want to also share that subsequent to this webinar, folks can always reach out to us. They can reach out to our staff members, Lionel and everyone, and follow up on any further questions. And we'll be so happy to accommodate that. Okay, so in the meantime, while we figure out, we would ask anyone who want to ask any questions. At this moment, feel free to throw any questions to us. Additionally, if we try another 5 seconds and we have a little issue with the video, we will just move on and continue to speak out the webinar. And then at the end of everything, we will certainly be able to share you a link with the video for you to see for yourself. All right, so if there are no questions and answers, questions thrown to our team, then we will continue with the next segment within the flight app part of the solution. So we just want to thank you for your patience while we sort out this technical difficulty. As we mentioned, that was a minute to allow for any questions and answers, but since everyone seems to be so fixated with our webinar, we're going to continue with the next slide and speak into more about the flight planning app, or the SiteScan app that will allow you to manage the pre-flight setup. All right. thank you for bearing with us. Sometimes we know in this virtual space there are technical difficulties, but we're just about ready to go live.
Thanks, Rashawn.
Esri. I'm Jeremiah Johnson, Imagery Solutions Architect for Esri, and I'm excited to demo for you today a new product within the ArcGIS ecosystem, SiteScan for ArcGIS, an integrated, end-to-end, cloud-based solution for your drone workflows. We're here at Esri's Redlands headquarters, and we're going to do a quick flight of this building to show how SiteScan can take care of the autonomous flight, image processing, and analysis. To plan the flight, we're going to take our iPad app and define the structure of the building using layers brought in from ArcGIS Online. Once I've defined the structure, I then define the offset from the structure. Notice that as I adjust my offset, the data on the bottom of the screen adjusts as well, reflecting my changes. Once I'm happy with my flight, all I have to do is save the flight plan. Now this flight plan is saved in the cloud, and anybody with a SiteScan operator license will be able to execute it. Looks like we're good to go. Let's go, Mike. The drone takes off straight up to the designated travel altitude. Once there, it makes its way to the first waypoint. Since this is a perimeter scan, the drone flies sideways with the camera pointed at an oblique angle to be able to completely capture the walls and roof of the building. While our drone is performing its mission, I have data from a previous flight. We'll use this data to show the post-flight workflow. Once the images are associated with the flight, I press Upload to Manager. The flight will immediately start processing using Elastic Cloud architecture. In 30 to 50 minutes, I'll receive an email saying the processing is completed. Back at the office, opening the project, I can view a list of all the flights that happened here. Let's open the most recent. I want to inspect the solar panels on the top of the building. To do that, I open the Photo Inspect tool on the right-hand side of the screen and click anywhere on the map. SiteScan will bring up the latest drone photo. But building inspection is not the only use case. Let's go to a construction project. A few miles from here is the San Bernardino International Airport. On the north side of the field is a large construction project where they're building a UAS center as well as a new Amazon Air regional air hub. On the left-hand side of the screen, I have layers like the original drone photos or 3D data like the contour or elevation model. I also have access to a volumetric model where I can see the latest updates of the earthwork, as well as a point cloud view where I can make 2D and 3D measurements. I'll also use this map to update my stakeholders. I can do that in one click by pressing Upload to ArcGIS Online, where it will be immediately available to my organization. SiteScan for ArcGIS is a complete end-to-end workflow, assisting you in planning autonomous drone flights to dissemination in ArcGIS Online.
Thank you much for tuning in to the video. I trust that you had some takeaways from it. So let's look at the components of the SiteScan application. First component is the SiteScan Flight Planning app, and this is available for download in your App Store. The SiteScan Flight Planning app is only available for download to your iPads. Well, there are discussions going forward as to allowing it to be able to use for iPhones, but that's not done as yet. But as it is right now, the iPad is the only device that is functional with the SiteScan Flight Planning app. Here's a screenshot of what the app looks like and the different kinds of flight planning functionalities that are within this system. We have area survey, cross-hatching survey, perimeter scans, and inspection. Just to name a few. So what we have done is to place all 7 options of flight planning in 3 categories. We have what we call the area mapping category, secondly, the modeling objects category, and finally, the sharing updates category. under each category, under the area mapping, for example, when you are in the site scan applicate flight planning app, you select area survey. If you're interested in doing things such as orthomosaics or just creating base maps, for example, as the area survey, what it allows the drone to do is fly in a lawnmower kind of pattern. This is perpendicular to a 2D surface. So the kind of products that and output that you receive is, of course, your two-dimensional imagery products. For example, as I mentioned, your orthomosaics, your base maps that can be used in your ArcGIS Pro, ArcGIS Online, for example. The second flight planning option is the cross-hatching. And this allows you to fly two area surveys in a perpendicular fashion to each other for oblique photography and for generating really high quality products. The third option under the area mapping is the corridor survey. And as it mentioned, it's for corridor scanning. For example, if you're looking to capture imagery on transportation or oil and gas, linear kinds of surfaces. The third option is, the third category rather, is the modeling objects. And this is for workflows that require you to fly buildings or facilities where you may have to fly at large vertical spaces. For example, your perimeter scan. And this is really a way to map an object, such as a building, a tower, or a bridge. You define your region of interest and then you fly around these objects, collecting oblique photography. Secondly, under the modeling objects is the vertical scanning. And this is for inspecting vertical face of objects. For example, like your sides of a mine, or the face of a building where you're not really going around as in perimeter scan, but you just want to collect imagery on the face or sides of surfaces, vertical surfaces, that is. And then, of course, the sharing updates option for inspection workflows or for sharing updates of projects. Your panorama option for 360-degree photos. And secondly, the inspect option for manually inspecting an object. The flight planning application, that is a site scan flight planning application, support drones many and varying. Here are some drones that are supported by the site scanning flight planning app, as are here your DJI drones and your 3DR drones. I am going to give you the opportunity to take a screenshot of these if you want to do so for about 8 seconds, just to have it for your record. I must have you know, however, that if you have other drones, you will be able to access imagery processing capabilities, and we'll speak about that further. It's just that those drones are the drones that I mentioned are those that are functional with this flight planning application itself, able to launch a mission. The site scan manager is the second component. So of course you use the site scanning flight plan application and you collected your imagery, but then you want to create meaningful and usable output, such as your 3D point clouds, your 3D mesh, or your elevation profiles, digital elevation models, digital terrain models. You want to measure slope, you would then have to convert to useful products. And this is the function of the site scan manager. So unlike the flight planning application, which is downloadable from your app store, the second component, the site scan manager, is a web application that you access through sitescan.arcgis.com. That is sitescan.arcgis.com. There you will see all the projects you have access to within your SiteScan organization. You'll be able to see data products that have been processed and can do basic analysis functionalities such as measuring height, cut and fill, measuring volumes, or volume changes based on CAD files. You can also see changes over time where the area is flown more than once. You want to detect changes, for example, how a construction site, the construction on a construction site, how the site might change over time. And in the event, of course, we know that SiteScan Manager is an image processing tool. It's an image processing tool. After you have processed your imagery, of course, within the ArcGIS system, you can then use these products in your ArcGIS Pro, your ArcGIS Online, as base maps, for example, to do further, and to use the raster functionalities, for example, in your ArcGIS Pro for further processing. Let me repeat the website, of course, in the event that reinforcement is needed. That is sitescan.arcgis.com. And those who are familiar with image processing tools, these files, many and varying file types would have been familiar. So we're able to do orthomosaics, images, digital terrain models, elevation models, point cloud 3D meshes, and contours. So many and varying functionalities and outputs of the SiteScan application. Let me mention that here are additional drones, that these ones are the ones that we provide here at Spatial Innovision Limited. The ones that are functional with the SiteScan flight planning app, we do not provide them, but at the same time, we want to cater to persons who already have those drones. So the flight planning application is functional with those drones. We also want to introduce you more so to those that we provide, which are functional with the SiteScan Manager itself. So whilst these are not compatible with the flight planning application, they are still nonetheless able to collect imagery, and these images are then functional and compatible with being processed through the SiteScan Manager. So your drone may not be listed as in the compatibility with the flight planning app per se. Doesn't mean that you cannot access the tool, as you are able to process your imagery nonetheless. Once you can collect your XYZ coordinates, your images are geotagged, that is, you can actually use the image processing tool. Let me mention, as on screen, or EBX or Parrot Anafi drones as well. And we can speak to that further in the Q&A. So you may be asking, what are the kinds of license levels that we have in SiteScan? Well, at the lower end of the tier is the viewer level, which is only read-only access. For example, persons in management, they may not, as I said, be savvy with ArcGIS professionals rather. So what they will do now is they will be able to view the products created within the SiteScan Manager system. Second to that is the access level. And the user who has the access level are not permitted to fly a drone. They're not permitted to fly a drone. What they can do is access the image processing capabilities, of course, in SiteScan Manager, so they can create imagery products, but they cannot launch a flight. They also can create the flight plan, so they can create it and disseminate it across the organization to a person with the operator level, for example. A user with the access level, as I mentioned, is not able to command a mission, but they can create the mission itself. You also have with the access level unlimited storage and processing capabilities. The operator level, on the other hand, has all the permissions of the access level. So they can do image processing, they can create the assignment, but they also have the added functionality of launching the drone flight. And as I mentioned, the ability to upload external data to the SiteScan Manager, and this is unlimited storage capabilities and unlimited processing capabilities. I want to thank you much for tuning in so far, and we'll now move to the next section. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Lionel, for all of that. It's good information, but it's also very relevant. So yeah, thanks again, Lionel, for sharing that. So in a nutshell, SiteScan is an end-to-end solution for drones. We have walked through the flight planning application part of it. We've also walked through the SiteScan manager. And it was what we would say, it is good to have one solution for the entire drone operation workflow. But maybe you guys have questions as well. So what we would do now is turn to the other section of the presentation, which is the Q&A with our in-house drone expert, Mr. Everett Johnson. So at this point, we'll open the floor for any questions, and he would gladly respond with the relevant answers. Okay, so type in the chat your questions, and we will certainly respond via the video, as well as probably text as well. So we're looking out for questions from you. Any questions, anyone? And do remember that if you have questions subsequent to this webinar, you can always send us an email. The email that will come up is marketing@spatialvision.com, or you can also send an email to products@spatialvision.com. We can certainly address any queries, any requests for additional information, and so on and so forth. And do remember also that the drone services, it goes across almost every aspect of the society. So typically we think of drones as land surveying, topographic surveying, but it can be also used for inspection of cell tower sites. It can be used in the mining sector. It can be used for almost every part of the society, as well as from professional to entertainment as well. Anything to do with mapping space, this is a solution for you. And so we invite anyone to reach out with questions, concerns, or opportunities for us to discuss further. Again, feel free to send a message in the chat, and we will respond accordingly. All right, guys, so what we're going to do is close off the webinar with just a reminder of the drones that we ourselves carry. I'm going to throw it to Mr. Everett Johnson, and he will speak more to the drones that Spatial Innovision carries. And then we will open back the floor for any questions. If not, then we close off. All right, Everett, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Roshan. And good morning, everyone. Currently, we...
A question coming in.
Okay, I'm seeing a question from Mr. Facey. He's saying, aside from the camera, does the SideMap app support any other sensor? Yes, it does. And because what you what you really need is the imagery from the sensors, which is what the camera does. So once you have the imagery, you can always upload that information into Site Manager and then basically get the result of what you required. Yeah, and as I was saying before, we actually have senseFly. We are the dealer for senseFly drones, which is a fixed wing EBX, the EBSQ, and for the quadcopters, Parrot, which is the Anafi thermal, and also the bluegrass. The bluegrass is for agriculture, while the Anafi thermal is for like heat sensors, and so that is actually used for such as security, also for fire, and it's also used for inspections, right? And for the bluegrass, as I said before, that's mainly for agriculture. So once you get the images, you can actually upload it to SiteScan Manager, and then they will actually process the information. You basically just tell them what you want, and they will process the information and send back to you within a reasonable time, maybe like 1 day or even a couple hours. So just looking if there is anybody else with any more questions, right? But seems like the webinar was very informative. So maybe I can just explain more about our drones, the drones that we actually sell. So the senseFly EBX, that's for large area survey. That's a fixed wing drone. Fixed wing drone for large area, while the Parrot Anafi is for smaller areas, right? Because the Parrot Anafi give you a flight time of about 25 minutes, while the senseFly EBX will give a flight time of about 60 minutes. Right? And the Parrot Anafi Bluegrass also give a flight time of 25 minutes, same as the Parrot Anafi work. Okay, there's another question from Mr. Jason Williams. He's asking, is there a desktop application version of SiteScan that allows for offline processing of imagery? Currently, I don't know of any, but I will get back to you with that answer. So if you can send us your email address, that would be good. Receive your email address, Mr. Williams, so thank you. And I'm seeing another question from Miss Gabrielle Hudson. Which of the drones would you recommend for collection of imagery for post-disaster collection, data collection, such as hurricane? Okay, so all drones can actually give you the image, which is what you actually need to access the result. So once you have, but you have to take in consideration of how large the area is, which the hurricane has affected. So in a sense where you actually have like a city or so, and you're thinking about time, you would actually go with a fixed wing. But if you have a small area and you want to actually do that like with a vertical takeoff, and you can go with the quadcopters. And once you get those images, you can just upload it to SiteScan, and then they will actually send you the result.
All right, everyone, thank you so much for your participation. We got some really good questions and everyone was able to assist. If there are any further questions or queries, we invite you to send that email to marketing@spatialvision.com, and we will certainly pass you on to the relevant subject matter expert. Do remember that what we do is have a webinar every month, so look out for invitations for the next webinar. We always welcome feedback, suggestions, or requests for topics so that we can serve you, our clients, regionally and globally. And of course, we ask of you to take a look further at the SiteScan. It's a very powerful solution. We're here to answer any questions or to help you along the way. Just to reiterate the points that the app manager is for specific drones, but the SiteScan manager can process all drones. So we welcome you to look at the drones that we have in stock, as well as whatever you may have access to. Do remember that it can also be used with the SiteScan solution. Thank you for making the time. We really appreciate your attentiveness, your interaction, and we welcome further feedback. Thank you to our hosts, Lionel Grant and Mr. Everett Johnson. My name is Rashawn Clark, I'm the Deputy CEO, and we also have a phantom team member here, VP of Corporate Services, Matthew Webster, who has certainly made everything work seamlessly in the background. So we thank him for his contribution and arrangement as well. Thank you for joining us, Spatial family, internally and externally, and look forward to seeing you on our next Spatial webinar, the date to be announced soon. Thank you and have a great day.